I have spent over 2 decades in medicine, most of that time in the ICU, caring for people in the worst moments of their lives. Heart attacks, strokes, organ failure. And after treating thousands of patients at the very end of their disease process, I realized something that completely changed the direction of my career. Almost none of them had to end up there. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share 5 truths about your health that I wish someone had told every one of those patients 20 years earlier. These are not tips or hacks. They're the foundational shifts that determine whether your future is defined by strength and independence or by disease and decline. By the end, you'll understand exactly what is quietly shaping your health right now and what you can do about it. I'm guessing you're currently doing what you've been told. You eat what you think is healthy, you try to exercise, your doctor says your labs are normal, and yet something feels off. The energy is not there, the weight will not budge. You're starting to wonder if this is just what getting older might feel like. It's not. I'm Dr. Tessa Dam, a physician with 4 board certifications including internal medicine, critical care medicine, neurocritical care, and lifestyle medicine. I've spent over 27 years in medicine, most recently over a decade in the ICU. I've seen the entire arc of disease, from silent beginnings to catastrophic endings. And what I see now, working in metabolic health, has changed everything I thought I knew. I'm going to walk you through 5 truths about your health that most doctors never explain, that most women over 50 have never been told, and that could fundamentally change the trajectory of your next 10, 20, 30, even 40 years. The diseases you fear most are not random. Heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, dementia, even many cancers. Most people believe these are a matter of bad luck or bad genetics. They are not. These conditions share a common cause, a metabolism that has gradually become dysfunctional over years and even decades. In the ICU, I care for people at the very end of these processes. What became impossible to ignore was that these crises did not begin in the hospital. They began decades earlier with small metabolic changes that quietly compounded over time. These diseases do not strike at random. They develop on a timeline, and that timeline started years before anyone noticed. Day after day in the ICU, the pattern repeats. Here's an example. A 69-year-old with type 2 diabetes whose kidney function has slowly been stolen, whose feet have lost sensation, who eventually lost part of each foot and could no longer walk independently. Then a fall, a hip fracture, perioperative IV fluid at this stage his failing heart couldn't handle. A cascade of failures that landed him in my ICU. None of it was sudden, all of it was predictable, and going back in time, nearly all of it was also preventable. Think of the foundation of a home. From the outside, everything can look solid. Walls are standing, life is moving forward every day. But if that foundation is slowly cracking, lasting damage is already underway. You just can't see it yet. And by the time it shows up, it's no longer a small fix. Your metabolism is no different. It's being built or broken every single day. Ask yourself this: do you know the current state of your metabolism? Not your LDL cholesterol, not your weight, your actual metabolic health. If the answer is no, you're living in a home whose foundation has never been inspected. And here's why that matters more than you think. 9 out of 10 adults already have metabolic dysfunction. This is not a statistic about other people. Research shows that approximately 9 in 10 of us have some sort of metabolic dysfunction. Most do not know it. It is not screened for during routine checkups until it reaches the point it can be labeled prediabetes or diabetes type 2. It does not show up on standard lab panels in the way most doctors are trained to look at them. And here is the part that should stop you in your tracks. Insulin resistance, the earliest stage of metabolic dysfunction, often persists for 15 years before a person even meets lab criteria for pre-diabetes. 15 years of silent damage that no one catches. You don't typically wake up one day and suddenly become sick. Most often, metabolic dysfunction builds for years while the world, including most medical professionals, tell you everything is fine. I meet women every week who've been told their labs are within normal limits. They have been doing what they thought was right, eating what they were told was healthy, exercising regularly, and yet their weight keeps creeping up. Their energy keeps dropping, and their joints hurt more every year. They're told this is aging. It is not aging. It's metabolic dysfunction in plain sight. Do you know what happens when you put diesel in a gasoline engine? Not only does the car not run, but damage quickly ensues. The same thing is happening at scale in modern society. The standard American diet, appropriately carries the acronym SAD, is a biological mismatch for the human body. And most people are running on the wrong fuel for decades without even knowing it. If you are over 50 and you have not specifically assessed your metabolic health, the odds say this does apply to you. Not because you did something wrong, but because the system never taught you to look for it. But here's what makes this even more dangerous than most people realize. If this is already shifting how you think about your health, hit subscribe. I post every week on metabolic health, what your doctor's not telling you, and how to take control of your health future. Let's keep going. Your normal labs may be hiding the problem. A normal lab value is not the same thing as optimal physiology. Normal, in fact, is based on a population that's metabolically sick, which means a person can technically have lab values within normal limits while still being on a trajectory toward chronic disease. Your doctor looks at your cholesterol panel and talks about LDL, but your metabolic signature actually lives within your HDL and triglyceride values, two numbers that quietly tell a far more impactful story about your metabolic health. Yet almost no one looks at them in this way, explains them, or uses them to guide decision making. Normal does not mean healthy. Normal means average. And average in today's world is metabolically broken. I recently had a woman look me straight in the eyes and say she was healthy. Then she paused and said, "And apparently I have prediabetes?" She said it like it was a weird technicality, noting that her doctor wasn't worried, so she wasn't either. She was doing everything she thought she was supposed to do, working out regularly, following a so-called heart-healthy diet, and yet her body was drifting in the wrong direction, because the definition of healthy in America is broken. Have you ever been told your labs are normal, but you still feel like something's off? Has your doctor ever explained what your triglyceride to HDL ratio means for your metabolic health? Do you know whether your fasting glucose or hemoglobin A1C, even if technically in range, have been uptrending over the past 5 years? If the answer to any of these is no, you may have valuable information sitting in your medical chart that nobody has ever properly interpreted for you. And what is happening silently in your body because of this is something most people have never been told. Glucose damage is not just about diabetes. Most people think blood sugar only matters if you have diabetes. This is dangerously wrong. Research shows that glucose spikes and high glucose variability over time cause damage to the innermost lining of every blood vessel in your body, referred to as vascular endothelium. This lining determines blood flow, oxygen delivery, and nutrient delivery to every organ, from your heart to your brain to your kidneys. When that lining is damaged, the stage is set for the diseases we fear most. And this damage is happening right now in 9 in 10 of us, including those whose blood sugar is technically still within the normal range. You do not need a diabetes diagnosis for glucose to be damaging your vascular endothelium right now. The harm starts long before the label. Did you know that many researchers now refer to Alzheimer's dementia as type 3 diabetes because of the brain's inability to properly utilize glucose? This is deeply personal to me. I watched my own mother slowly deteriorate and die with dementia. Anyone who has experienced this knows the heartbreak. You lose the essence of someone you love while their body is still present. The connection between metabolic dysfunction and brain health is no longer theoretical. It is established science, and why this is so personal for me. Here's what you should stop doing. Assuming prediabetes is just a yellow light that does not require action. Believing that blood sugar only matters once you are diagnosed with diabetes or prediabetes. Ignoring the upstream damage that glucose spikes and high glucose variability cause to your blood vessels. How about some things you should start doing? Understanding that metabolic health determines the trajectory of your brain health, heart health, and independence as you age. Recognizing that glucose management is not just about diabetes prevention. It is about protecting every organ in your body. Treating metabolic health as the foundation of your health and your future, rather than an afterthought. So if the damage is happening silently and the system is not catching it, what actually works to reverse it? You can reverse this, and it starts with food. Here's the truth that changes everything. Metabolic dysfunction is reversible. Not with more prescriptions, not with a lifetime of medication, with targeted changes to something you're already doing. How you eat. Food is not just fuel. Food is information for your metabolism. Every bite sends a signal telling your body whether to move toward resilience or toward disease. And the single most powerful lever you have to change your metabolic trajectory is something you are already doing every single day: eating and drinking. The best thing you can do for your health is not to add something new, it's to modify that which you are already doing. You do not need a new supplement. You do not need a new workout. You need to change the signals you are sending your body 3 or more times daily. Here's a real-life example. A woman started working with me at age 72. Her primary care physician referred her because they both felt hopeless. She had autoimmune arthritis, so severe she could barely function independently. Her hands were so swollen she had not seen the wrinkles on her finger joints in over a decade. She had stopped playing piano, stopped knitting, stopped gardening. She was sliding down her stairs on her backside due to the pain and disability from her joints. Within weeks of changing how she fueled her body, the swelling in her hands began to recede completely. She discontinued her nonspecific biologic medication due to intolerable side effects. And despite this, her inflammatory markers became undetectable. Her rheumatologist even repeated the labs because he could not believe they would be truly undetectable given the severity of her disease. What's more, her cardiac function improved enough that she no longer qualified for a planned heart valve replacement surgery. And she lost 20 pounds in 12 weeks. Today she gardens, travels independently, volunteers at a local elementary school, plays piano again, and for the first time in her adult life, purchased a full-length mirror. Not because she had to, but because she finally enjoys what she sees. It's a little like this. You can row all day, but if you're headed in the wrong direction, you will never reach the shore. Most women I work with do not need more effort. They need a different direction. When you finally point the boat the right way, the same effort that was getting you nowhere starts producing extraordinary results. You may be asking, what can I do now? Tonight or tomorrow, do this one thing. At your next meal, eat your protein first. Before anything else on your plate, eat the protein. Here's why this matters. Protein triggers satiety signals that shut off your hunger hormone, ghrelin. It stabilizes your blood sugar after the meal. And it provides building blocks your body needs to maintain and build lean muscle, which is where most of your insulin receptors reside. Muscle, therefore, is metabolic currency. The more you have, the easier it is to keep your metabolic house in order. This is not a diet. This is one specific doable shift you can make at your very next meal. Eat protein first. Fill up on it. Then eat whatever else is on your plate. Notice how your hunger changes. Notice your energy after the meal, how that changes. That is your metabolism responding to a different signal. Why this works is simple. Prioritizing protein changes your hormonal response to the meal. It reduces the glucose spike from whatever else you eat. It builds the lean tissue that drives your metabolic health. And it's something you can do tonight without buying anything new, changing your grocery list, or following a complicated plan. One meal, protein first. Start there. My parting thought is this. The diseases that fill hospital beds do not start in the hospital. Overwhelmingly, they start with metabolic dysfunction that develops quietly over years and decades. I've seen the entire arc, both personally and professionally. The silent beginning, the slow middle, the catastrophic end. And I can tell you with certainty that an overwhelming majority of it is preventable. Your future health is not predetermined. It is not genetic destiny. It is something you build one decision at a time. And the most powerful decision you can make starts with what you put on your plate. In the next video, I'm breaking down exactly why you cannot lose weight after 50 and why it has nothing to do with calories, willpower, or your thyroid. If you've been doing everything right and the scale will not budge, that video will finally explain what's actually going on. Click the link on the screen or in the description and watch that one next.